Welcome to the channel. Here, we go deep into the psychology that shapes your everyday life. The silent forces behind your choices, your emotions, and your identity. In today's video, we're breaking down one of the most powerful and dangerous psychological forces you've probably never fully understood: cognitive dissonance. By the end of this video, you'll know what it really is, how it silently controls your decisions, how it creates guilt, denial, and regret, and most importantly, how to break free. Let's begin. It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed. Your phone screen is dim, but your thoughts are screaming. You told yourself you'd change. You said you'd walk away from them. You promised you'd stop going back, that you'd finally be who you said you wanted to be. But here you are, again, scrolling, regretting, repeating. There's a war happening inside you, not between right and wrong, but between your truth and your actions, and the tension between them. That's not anxiety. That's cognitive dissonance. And tonight, we're going to talk about it. Not like a textbook, but like a therapist who's seen too much. Like a friend who refuses to let you lie to yourself anymore. Because if you don't understand this, you won't understand why your life feels stuck in limbo. Part 1. The hidden battle in your mind. Cognitive dissonance is not just a psychology term. It's not just some brain trick. It's the mental civil war between who you think you are and what you keep doing when no one's watching. You say you care about honesty, but you lied at work last week to avoid conflict. You say you value loyalty, but you keep texting someone who isn't yours. You say you love yourself, but you keep treating your body like a trash bin for dopamine. And every time your actions betray your beliefs, a crack forms in your mind. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up as guilt, as self-loathing, as discomfort you can't quite name. You'll say you're tired. You'll say you're just stressed. But underneath that fog is dissonance, an internal fracture that keeps growing. And the brain, it hates this feeling. It sees this mental tension as a threat, so it does everything it can to fix the gap. But here's the catch. It doesn't always fix it by changing your behavior. It usually fixes it by changing your beliefs. Part 2. The brain's coping mechanism. Imagine this. You believe you're a good person, but you just ghosted someone who trusted you. Now your brain has two options. 1. Change your behavior. Admit you were wrong. Apologize. Grow. 2. Change your belief. Tell yourself, they were too clingy anyway, or I don't owe anyone anything. Which one's easier? Exactly. So your brain rewrites the story. It edits your memory like a lazy screenwriter trying to justify a bad ending. It's not about truth, it's about comfort. The dissonance fades, but the lie remains. And over time, lie after lie, your identity drifts. You're no longer living in alignment. You're just managing contradictions. 1,000 tiny betrayals of self. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person blinking back. Part 3. The real-life examples that will haunt you. Let's get real. Relationships. Ever stay in a toxic relationship and convince yourself they'll change? You believe love should feel safe. But you're waking up in panic, walking on eggshells. So you either leave, or you redefine love to include pain. You say, it's complicated. You say, but we have history. You tell your friends it's not always bad. That's not love. That's cognitive dissonance rewriting your values so you can survive the discomfort of staying. Quitting. You tell yourself you're passionate about your dreams, but you keep putting them off. You say you just need time. You say you're waiting for the right moment. Deep down, you're afraid. You're not lazy. You're at war. So your brain makes excuses. It tells you success is overrated. That comfort is peace. But that's a lie you tell to avoid feeling like a coward. Guilt and denial. Guilt is your soul knocking. Denial is you deadbolting the door. When your actions betray your morals, guilt rises. But guilt is heavy. So you shift the narrative. You say, everyone does it. You say, it's not that deep. You numb the guilt with dopamine, distractions, or detachment. But just because the music's loud doesn't mean the house isn't burning. Part 4. Why it controls your life. Cognitive dissonance isn't just a psychological phenomenon. It's the puppet master behind your decisions. The invisible hand that guides your justifications. Every vote you cast. Every relationship you keep. Every excuse you make. It's not random. It's a patchwork of rationalizations you created to avoid tension. You don't do what's right. You do what makes your story make sense to you. But here's the catch. The more dissonance you suppress, the more numb you become. And numb people can't change. They just survive. You wonder why you feel fake. Why happiness feels hollow. Why your success doesn't feel like yours. It's because you haven't made peace between what you believe and how you behave. You're living in a house where the walls are painted with contradiction. And every day you avoid that truth. You pay the price with your peace. Part 5. The unspoken truth about identity. Identity isn't just who you are. It's who you believe you are. And when your behavior contradicts that belief, you either change your life or lie to your mind. This is why self-awareness is terrifying. Because the moment you become honest, you're forced to choose. Either face the discomfort or live in a comfortable illusion. Most people choose the illusion. That's why the world is full of contradiction. The activist who exploits workers. The therapist who can't confront their own trauma. The religious leader who hides sin behind scripture. None of us are immune. We're all negotiating truth. Some of us just got better at pretending. But the people who transform, they're the ones who sit in the fire of their own dissonance and don't look away. Part 6. Healing means war. Here's the hard part. Healing from cognitive dissonance isn't a motivational quote. It's not a morning routine. It's war. You'll have to admit things you've hidden. You'll have to dismantle a version of yourself you've spent years protecting. You'll have to look at your life and ask, do I actually believe this? Or did I create this to avoid pain? And when the answers come, they'll sting. But that sting is cleansing. It's truth washing off the layers of avoidance. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be honest. You can't fix your life until you admit what's broken. Part 7. The courage to choose integrity. What does it mean to live in integrity? It means your actions don't contradict your beliefs. It means you walk away when your soul says no, even when your body screams, stay. It means you stop justifying red flags. You stop romanticizing pain. You stop feeding your comfort at the expense of your clarity. It means saying, this doesn't align with me anymore, and letting it burn. Integrity isn't easy. It costs comfort. It costs convenience. It costs denial. But the reward? Peace. Real peace. The kind that lets you sleep without wondering who you betrayed today. The kind that lets you look in the mirror without flinching. The kind that no dopamine hit can replace. The traps you don't realize you're in. Let's look deeper. Cognitive dissonance doesn't just show up in your personal life. It shapes the world you believe in. It controls what news you trust. If you've built your identity around a certain political stance, you won't just disagree with opposing views. You'll feel personally attacked by them. You won't say, that's a different perspective. You'll say, that's fake news. Because if you accepted the other side might be right, you'd have to accept you might be wrong. And that dissonance is unbearable to your ego. So your brain filters everything through confirmation, not curiosity. It's not about truth anymore. It's about staying mentally comfortable. Why you stay in the wrong job. You spent years getting that degree, thousands of pounds in tuition, late nights, sacrifices. But now, you're miserable. You feel lost, trapped. And instead of walking away, you say things like, "I've already come this far. It's a stable job. This is just how life is." But deep down, you know, you've tied your identity to the investment, not the truth. And the dissonance. It's eating you alive during your commute. In the silence before sleep, in that moment, you stare at the office ceiling wondering, is this it? You're not stuck. You're just scared to confront the possibility that you chose wrong. But that fear, that's what's stealing your future. Part 9. Childhood and the birth of dissonance. Want to know when cognitive dissonance really began? When you were a child? Maybe you were told, "You're safe here." But watch the adults around you scream, slam doors, or disappear. Maybe you were told, "You're loved," but only felt it when you performed, achieved, obeyed. So you learned to split yourself, to hold two conflicting beliefs at once. My parents care for me, but I feel afraid and unseen. You couldn't make sense of it. So your brain didn't try. It just adapted. You stopped asking which belief was true and started learning how to survive contradiction. Now you do the same thing with partners, with authority, with yourself. That discomfort you feel as an adult, it's not new, it's familiar. You've been living in cognitive dissonance so long, you've mistaken it for normal. But survival mode is not a personality. It's a defense. And it's time to update the software. Part 10. How we weaponize dissonance. Here's something darker. Cognitive dissonance isn't just something we suffer from. Sometimes we exploit it. Companies know you care about health, so they slap low-fat on junk food. They ease your dissonance by pretending your bad habits are healthy ones. Politicians know you want peace, so they rebrand war as defense. They sell you comfort instead of truth, even in personal relationships. Some people will manipulate your dissonance. They'll hurt you, then remind you of all the good times to keep you stuck between love and logic. Because if they can keep you confused, they can keep you compliant. You'll hesitate. You'll stay. You'll question yourself instead of them. That's the shadow side of dissonance. It can be a trap, but it can also be a weapon. So if you don't master it, someone else will use it against you. Part 11. The slow poison of self-betrayal. Let's talk about what happens when you ignore dissonance for too long. You get sick, not always physically, but spiritually. You wake up with no excitement. You can't make decisions. You numb out with food, screens, addictions. You start saying things like, "I don't even know who I am anymore." Of course you don't. Because every time you made a choice that went against your truth, you silenced a piece of yourself. Not loud enough to hear, but loud enough to shift the trajectory of your life. You become a stranger to your own soul, still breathing, still functioning, but hollow. That's the price of long-term dissonance, not failure, but emotional amnesia. You forget what aligned even feels like. Until one day, you hit a wall, and everything cracks open. Part 12. The path back to alignment. Now the real question. How do you fix this? It starts with one brutal, sacred word: honesty. Not just with others, but with yourself. You have to look at your life and ask, where am I out of alignment? What am I pretending to believe? What do I know is wrong, but keep doing anyway? That's not a journal prompt. That's a mirror. And when you hold it up, you'll see two versions of yourself. the one who survives dissonance, and the one who ends it. Choose the second. Then comes the hard part. Align your actions. Don't just say you value health. Move your body. Nourish it. Don't just say you want peace. Stop texting chaos. Don't just say you value honesty. Tell the damn truth. Even if your voice shakes, even if it ends relationships, even if it costs you comfort. Because that discomfort, that's the exit wound of a lie being pulled from your body. It stings, but it heals. Part 13. When you finally align. Here's what happens when you live in alignment. You stop overthinking because you're not hiding anything. You stop people-pleasing because you're not betraying yourself. You stop feeling like a fraud because your soul and actions finally agree. And that peace you've been chasing in substances, followers, validation. It finds you, not as a feeling, but as a frequency. Your energy shifts. People notice. You're not pretending anymore. You're embodied. You don't need to convince anyone of who you are because you finally believe it. And belief. Real belief comes from alignment, not from quotes, not from affirmations, but from a consistent pattern of showing up as your true self, even when it costs you. That's freedom, and most people will never taste it. Let this be your turning point. If you're still watching, it means something in you knows. You felt the quiet ache, the invisible to-go-vor, and maybe no one else sees it, but you do. So here's your challenge. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Don't justify it. Let the dissonance wake you up. Let it burn down every version of you that was built to impress, survive, or conform. Let it clear the fog, and then rebuild, not into who they expect you to be, but into who you've always been beneath the noise. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret being imperfect. You'll regret being inauthentic. You'll regret the times you stayed silent when your soul was screaming. You'll regret how long you let the war go on inside you before you finally chose peace. Final section. Let this be your turning point. If you're still watching, it means something and you knows. You felt the quiet ache, the invisible tug of war, and maybe no one else sees it, but you do. So here's your challenge. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Don't justify it. Let the dissonance wake you up. Let it burn down every version of you that was built to impress, survive, or conform. Let it clear the fog, and then rebuild. Not into who they expect you to be, but into who you've always been beneath the noise. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret being imperfect. You'll regret being inauthentic. You'll regret the times you stayed silent when your soul was screaming. You'll regret how long you let the war go on inside you. Before you finally chose peace, you don't fear change. You fear the mental war between who you are and who you pretend to be. But you don't have to pretend anymore. Choose truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because that's how you come home to yourself.